Hello everyone, I hope it's going well. I am going to make a patch on the Iridium from scratch. So I'm going to do load init. And I'm going to make a firework sound. So I'm going to start with a kind of a thud and then have some sparkles around it that are wider in the stereo field. And just to do something different, but also this will kind of help showcase some of the routing and some of the capabilities that you have with the Iridium. So the very first thing I'm going to do is, because there's 3 oscillators and because there's 3 oscillator mix knobs, and because in the envelope section you have 3 free envelopes, I don't think that's a coincidence because this allows you to control the volume of each of these independently, which when you're doing more complex sounds is a really good technique to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the first envelope, free 1, and I'm going to add a destination of oscillator 1 mix and turn the amount all the way up. And I'm going to turn the oscillator mix all the way down. So now this knob is being controlled by this envelope. So I'm getting this kind of more of this like little plucky sound. Okay. And then now I'm going to do that. I'm just going to leave that as the default envelope. I'm going to do that for each one. So I'm going to go to free 2, add in oscillator 2 mix, turn the amount all the way up, turn the mix all the way down, and then do that for the third one. So I'm just going to repeat this. And you could obviously set this up as a template. This is a nice template to set up because it's, you know, pretty common thing to do. And so now I'm going to, let's start with the thud, you know, of this firework sound. So let me turn that off. Let's go to oscillator 1, and I'm going to use noise basically to do this. So let me go in and set this to, we'll use pink noise because pink noise has a little more depth to it. But that doesn't really sound like a thud or a boom. So how are we going to do that? Well, one of the ways to do that is we're going to route that through the filter. So let me go into the routing for a section because this is one of the things I want to talk about. So the first thing is you have these dual filter section, and I think it helps to think of these as one thing. It's like a complex filter. And then you have this auxiliary digital filter that can do effects that's called a digital former. And you can kind of put those, you know, in series or in parallel, basically. And that option right here is for routing. I can say I want to have the digital former, which has a bit more effect related things like distortion and things like that before the filters, or the default is to have the filters first and then the digital former. And then what I'm going to use is I'm going to run these in parallel. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I'm going to set each of these to run through this a bit differently. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change oscillator 1 to be to go through the filters only. So main, notice that main, like if I leave it on main, it'll go through all 3 of them. But what I'm going to have it do is I'm going to say I want it to be this top entry, which is digital former 0, and then filter 100%. So 100% of oscillator 1 is running through those. And then for oscillator 2, I'm going to have it go directly to the VCA. So I'm going to go ahead and change oscillator 2 to be there. And you can see in the graphic it jumped over to show that oscillator 2 is going there. For oscillator 3, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to have it only run through the digital former, which in this long list, these are just percentages. So if you stop in the middle, it'll be 50% going through each one. But I'm going to go all the way to the bottom so that 100% of the signal is going to the digital former and none of it's going through the filters. So this kind of gives you a routing that has a lot of, there's a lot of flexibility here. But that was just where I wanted to start. All right, so now let's go back to oscillator 1. And I want to point out one more thing is in the control tab, you have that ability to change the destination right here. So sometimes when I'm thinking about it, I won't go to that routing button. I'll just do it right on the oscillator because it's the same control. You have it in both places. So now this is going to sound the same because we haven't done anything. But we have the filters ready to, you know, to play with that. So let's go to filters. And let's go to the first filter, and I'm going to change the mode right now to be single just for right now. And I'm going to also add some amount onto the filter envelope so it's actually changing it. So, and let me bring the cutoff down. So it should be, so we get something like this. Okay, let me turn on the envelope section so you can kind of see that. And then let's maybe shorten up turn the sustain off, get the release. Need a little release. This is one, I'm going to show you this. This is a really common thing, but there's a lot of times when you're working with envelopes that you'll find, oh, why can't I hear the sound at the end? And it's, you know, anybody that has worked with synths will tell you is like, well, that's because your amp envelope, you know, is ending very fast because it's controlling everything. So I'm just going to add some release onto that. Now you'll hear when I release, well, I have to change it. Hold on a second. We add a little more release onto the. Why does that end so fast? That ends faster than I think it would. Oh, maybe I'm just not giving it enough. That still doesn't end as. Huh. Okay. Well, I'm going to leave that for now because I thought it would have a longer effect. But I'm gonna just keep going here and we'll come back to that. So on this first one, so we're starting to get something that sounds a little more. But now let's add in one of the types. So let's add in some grit. So this was saturation. Okay, there we go. Pretty big difference. So that's the. Like that one sounds cool. Let's, I'm going to change the envelope now and change the decay so it's faster. Okay. Maybe a little lower. Okay. That sounds pretty workable. Let's just go with that as our first kind of thud. And then let's add the sparkles next. Let's go to oscillator 2. And what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to go to waveform and I'm going to add in white noise. So instead of pink noise, it's white noise. And you can hear that these happen right on top of each other, right? But what I want is I want the thud to come first and then the sparkle, right? So remember when I split these envelopes up, I can go to the free number 2 because I'm working on oscillator 2. And I'm going to use the delay feature to just scooch it over. So let's do half a second or something like that, or something close to half a second. Okay, a little bit better. And now let's put some attack so it kind of fades in, yeah. Okay, and let's get the sustain off and decay just a little bit shorter. There we go. Okay, so that's our second one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of mess with where these are in the stereo field. So when you go to the timbre tab on waveform, you'll see here there's a setting for the stereo field. And I'm going to set the oscillator 1 all the way to be in the middle. Okay, let me change it all the way to the right so you hear the difference. Okay, and then this is going to be, well, let me do it here. So. Okay, so that's right in the middle. So now what I'm going to do is go to oscillator 2 and do the opposite and actually widen this out. I'm going to get it to be like 160 degrees, something like that. So it just kind of makes it a little more interesting to get that effect. For oscillator 3, what we're going to do is oscillator 3, I'm going to use the kernels. And I'm going to use kernels to make... I don't know if this is necessary, but I just love to use the kernels engine when I can because I want white noise to just like tear up, you know, to sound just a bit more like those really bright crackles that you get. So this is what I came up with. So I went to the kernels mode. I set K1 to be white noise. This is just the default, right? And then for K2, what I did was I just added a lot of feedback. Okay. And let me show you a little trick here. Like when you're trying to like make a sound like this, if you, like you can see these two are on waveform. If I just actually tap that, that just basically, it kept all my settings, but it basically turned that oscillator off. And you can see, you can't, nothing's lit up right now, but watch what happens when I press oscillator 2. You'll see that the button kind of reminds you that's like, it's not actually doing anything. So I can do that for both of these guys. And then now I'm only hearing the one that I'm working with. Okay. So let me change this to be, yeah, I'm going to try true FM for this. And I'm also going to change the, yeah, and then let me go to K1. I'm just adding in level here for K1 to really tear it up. We're kind of getting back into white noise territory. So I kind of want to dial it back. I want it to be a bit chunky like that. And let me go to K2. Now I'm just playing with this, trying to find. I'll leave that in there as just as little. I don't know if I like those. All right, I'll leave it like that. I'll sit here and play with this for a long time, so I won't do that. I won't. So now what we're going to do is we're going to run this. This guy is running through the digital former. If you remember on the routing, we did that earlier. So for oscillator 3, if I go to the digital former, it's not doing anything. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to have it add gain, or have it add drive, sorry. Wrong one. Drive. And I found earlier playing with this, that pickup gave me the effect I was looking for. So this is just like, I don't know if I like the little tone there that you get, but maybe I could take that out. But it's got that. That's strange. Earlier when I was doing this, I wasn't getting that tone, so I did something different. Let me change this to... I'm really surprised I'm getting good sound. Let me just mess with the level here. I'll have to look and see how I did this before. I thought all I did was I took a white noise and then just applied that to and left K2 as a sine. But I'll leave that for now because I have one. I can load one up actually where I did more work on it, and then I will also send that to or attach it into the description in the video too, so you can download it if you want it. Okay, so let's put all these together now. So, and let's also, I have to edit the envelope, excuse me, on filter 3 because we also want it to be delayed, and I'm going to give it a little bit of an attack too. So let's see, and let's just get the delay. All right, let's turn the sustain off because we just want to, got a couple of these coming in. All right, a little less. There we go, something like that, just something quick. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the LFO, LFO1. I'm going to set it to global mode, and I'm just going to have it pan oscillator 3 in this case. So let's go ahead and add in oscillator 3 pan. And then return the destination. So you're going to hear it go really fast like that, which, you know, might be cool, you know, if you want to crank this up all the way. It's a different type of effect, you know. But I'm going to do something really slow, like something that's, you know, a few seconds. So the idea is that every time you press the key, it's starting someplace else and kind of sweeping through the stereo field. All right, so now last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load up the one that I did. I used a couple more techniques that I'll show real quick, and then we'll end the video. So I'm going to load up. I got to go to the section I have this in, and that's the one. So let's load up that guy. So this is after I spend a little more time tweaking it. And every time you press a key, it actually randomizes and gives you a little bit different. Let me go to the filters, actually. Go to this one so you can. And okay, so a couple things I did differently with this one. Pretty much the same thing, except one thing I used was the boost mode on the filter. So this is using both, the dual filters, but they're kind of adding to each other, so I get a little bit more oomph. You can really hear it if one of the low ones comes in. There we go. Trying to get one low. They're all like really high. But anyway, one of the things, and every time I'm pressing a key, which is one of the things I wanted to show or explain, is I'm using the random trig just to change the filter cutoff. So every time you press a key, you get a slightly different starting point for the beginning of the firework. The other thing that I did was I'm using a chorus and reverb effect in here. So if I turn these off for a second, I can show you what it sounds like. That's with no effects. And then if I turn reverb back on, reverb's pretty subtle in this one. And then let me add the chorus, which is definitely not subtle, more of a flanging effect. I really liked that. It sounded cool. All right, so that's all I have. Thank you very much for your time. And yeah, you might not use the synthesizer like the Iridium to make fireworks, but the thing is it's just a way to sit down and play and learn with the gear that you have. Thank you very much. Bye.